And I now work out in San Francisco, California for SSDP's national staff, doing a variety of things, including overseeing our Campus Change campaigns. So if any of you are running campaigns to change policies on your campuses, definitely give me a call or shoot me an email. Let's touch base and go through the specific steps of running a campaign. Usually when we do policy workshops, we write 3 things up on the board. So I'm going to do that right now. So we have goal. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. So we have goal, strategy, and tactics. All right, goal, strategy, tactics. This is what we did last weekend at the Connecticut Decrim Makes Sense conference. We laid these out. We started talking about what the goal is, strategy, tactics. There was a lot of confusion about the difference between what a strategy is and what a tactic is, and what your goals are and that kind of thing. So what I want to do today is really just kind of go through that process and the theory behind planning a campaign, so that when you do start planning a campaign, you're not like, okay, what's a strategy, what's a tactic, that kind of thing. So, so I'm going to start off. Telling you about a crazy dream I had last weekend. So I flew in, like I said, to Connecticut last weekend. It was a god-awfully long flight. They delayed me like 3 times, and I showed up like 8 hours later than I was supposed to get to Connecticut. So I fell asleep like a rock, and I had this wild dream. It was in this post-apocalyptic world, okay? I don't know what happened, if there was like a disease like in 28 days later and everyone was zombies, or like if there was like a nuclear explosion or something. In any case, shit hit the fan, right? And I'm like at my parents' house in Rhode Island with a bunch of close friends. I think Tom was there, I think Justin Holmes was there. We were defending ourselves from like the crazy masses with like kitchen knives, right? So crazy dream, and all of a sudden, through the front door bursts this guy. He's like shirtless, he's sweating, and his like hair is all like crazy. He's like wild-eyed, and we're like, oh my god! And I look him in the face, and it's fucking Sean Penn. All right, Sean Penn, no joke. So, so I'm like, oh man, like Sean Penn's a good guy, like anti-war, right? He's cool. I've seen him on like The Daily Show. So I like help him up, and I like get him to the couch. And I'm like, Sean Penn, like how can I help? And he's like, a shirt would be nice. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll get you a shirt. I go into my bedroom, and I'm like looking through all my shirts, and of course, like every one is a drug policy shirt, right? It's like my Americans for Safe Access shirt, there's a Marijuana Policy Project shirt, there's my No More Drug War shirt from DPA, and then I pick up, guy with the red hair. Can you stand up? Turn around. I pick up that shirt right there. SSDP, Dare to Resist the War on Drugs. Who doesn't have that shirt? Order one on the website, come on. But yeah, so I get my SSDP shirt. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna give Sean Penn this shirt. I go into the, into the living room, give it to him. He's like, oh man, this is awesome. He puts it on. He's like, man, this is a really nice shirt. I should give you like 30 bucks for it. I'm like, no, Sean Penn, like, you can keep the shirt. You're Sean Penn. And he's like, no, really, I mean, this is a good shirt, I don't take charity, like, let me give you 30 bucks. And I'm like, all right, you don't need to give me 30 bucks, but let's sit down, we'll talk about drug policy, we'll talk about SSDP, and if you feel so inclined to make a charitable contribution to the organization, then we can go from there. And he smiled at me, and then we began talking drug policy, and I woke up in a non-apocalyptic world. So the moral of this story is that, I mean, things are getting so exciting right now in the realm of drug policy reform that when I'm having dreams about like being in a post-apocalyptic world with Sean Penn, I'm talking about drug policy reform. And I hope that you all get to that point as well, that you're dreaming about drug policy reform, you know, at some point, if you're not already. But that's not really the moral of the story. The moral of the story is that I recently saw Milk. Who's seen Milk here? Okay. If you've not seen Milk, go see Milk. I mean, Ethan Nadlemann was talking earlier about how our movement is very much like the movement for GLBT rights and gay marriage and gay rights movement, and how we can see a lot of parallels in sort of the coming out and that kind of thing. But if you watch the movie Milk, you'll see that that Harvey Milk, played by Sean Penn, he becomes sort of a figurehead in the GLBT movement. But it doesn't start out that way. It starts out with him just being pissed off, right, that gay people are getting beaten up by the cops when they go and hang out in gay clubs, and that they're being discriminated against when they try to set up businesses. And he was pissed off. He organized people. There were protests. People got riled up. But at a certain point in the movie, you see that he starts to realize that this isn't really going to change anything without a long-term goal and strategy to what they're doing, right? That protests are not really activism. Protests are a tactic that can be used very effectively in activism, but that you need an overarching goal and strategy to guide you when you're having these protests, because otherwise you're just a bunch of pissed off people yelling at the man, right? So what he identified is that, that ultimately what politics is about is identifying your goal, right? And the goal is what you want specifically changed. So in the movie, obviously, it was equal rights for gays and lesbians, transgenders, and what I want to go over later on today is what our goals are. So the goal is what you want changed. The strategy is the path that you take to get there. So who are the decision makers that are going to change the policies? If you're running a ballot initiative, that's the people, right? If you're going through a legislature, that's Congress or House of Representatives. If you're going through, if you're doing a campus change campaign, sometimes it's your school administrators, sometimes it's your your student government, but oftentimes a lot of people start with the tactics and work their way backward. A lot of time, people, running a campaign, I'll get a call from a chapter and they say, hey, we're running a campaign to, pass a Good Samaritan policy on campus, and we're planning a protest, and we just wrote up a petition, we've got, 1,000 people signed on to the petition, and I asked them, well, who has the power to change the policy here? And, after a few minutes, they're like, oh, Jesus Christ, we need to go back to the drawing board, because without laying out exactly how you get from point A to point B, ultimately you can waste a lot of time with tactics that aren't going to bring you from point A to point B. So again, the goal is where you want to be, the strategy is who can get you there, and then the tactics are essentially exploiting opportunities to exert leverage on those decision makers, right? And finding opportunities for leverage and exploiting those. And those are the tactics that you're going to use. Now, I didn't always know that, and I definitely made the same mistake of pursuing tactics before laying out the goal and strategy. So I'm going to tell you a few stories of campaigns that I've been involved in when I made this mistake. So the first one is in the summer of 2004, I believe. I worked with the Marijuana Policy Project. I was a summer fellow at the Marijuana Policy Project, working with Aaron Houston back there. He was my MPP liaison back in the day. The goal was to work on convincing a very conservative, very Republican member of Congress from Connecticut to support a bill that would end the raids on, the DEA raids on medical marijuana patients in states where it's legal, like California. So there was this guy, Rob Simmons. He recently got unelected a few years ago, but he voted with George Bush like 90% of the time, right? This guy was not in favor of our issue. But you know, Aaron called me up. He said, "This is your job, man. This summer, you know, we're going to pay you to change this guy's vote." I'm like, all right.